What are the top options for the Miami Dolphins when it comes to their quarterback contingency plan for 2025? It's something Mike McDaniel and Chris Greer can't afford to get wrong. We'll talk about all of the options, which ones I think are the best, and much more. Smash that like button, subscribe if you're new, and let's get into this.
Loses the football. Touchdown! Got it!
You have got to be kidding me.
Jaylen Waddle has a Dolphin touchdown. And he will score!
Field down the near side, man open. Touchdown!
The run from Tua Tagovailoa.
Touchdown!
He's going deep. He's got it for the touchdown again.
Beautiful day to be a Dolphin fan.
Let's go!
What is good, Fin Nation? What's good? It's your boy Reason, and we are back here for another one on this divisional round Sunday after a wild Saturday. How many parlays and plays were killed yesterday because of the outcome in that Commanders game? We will talk about it all. Appreciate all of you coming through. You know, I see everyone talking about Dart right now, and yeah, I gotta say something, man. Listen, you know, go support real Dolphin content creators like Dudley Durong, Ryder McConnell, etc., etc. You know, listen, when you're backed by a big conglomerate, and I'm specifically talking about Dolphins Today by Chat Sports, I watched their little like quarterback draft thing. Tell me you don't watch my show and rip it off without telling me you watch my show and rip it off. Like, give me a break. You know, no one in this whole community has been talking about Dart the way I have, let alone McCord, as well as Curtis Rourke. And Neil's number one guy is Jalen Milroe. For months and months, I've been telling all y'all that McDaniel's gonna love Quinn Ewers. That was basically their top five targets in the draft. Like, you straight up just listen to me and Jack all the takes. That is crazy, man. No shame whatsoever. I was like, man. And I gotta say, man, for, you know, the fact that y'all got a conglomerate behind you and SEO and all that kind of stuff, man, people like Dudley Durong, from a production value to a quality standpoint to myself, etc., man, we blow you out of the water. Holy jeez, that stuff's terrible. Anyways, that's why I don't even consider them a Dolphins channel. I mean, the owner of Chat Sports, Tom Downey, is a Cowboys fan. So, you know, I had to get that off because I saw that and I was like, yo, man, no. I've seen a few people on Twitter, not with platforms, talk about Kyle McCord, but I ain't seen no one talking about Curtis Rourke. And when I saw Dart, McCord, Rourke, Milroe, and Ewers, I was like, please. I almost threw up in my mouth. You know, they say imitation is the biggest form of flattery, but man, I've told y'all, I was in the hip-hop industry before that, okay? No, biting is not okay. Biting is not okay, man. Y'all need to go to the dentist if you're going to bite like that. So I just had to get that off my chest because, you know, I keep it $150. And when I saw that, I was just like, give me a break. Now, let's keep it going. Let's talk about Jayden Daniels, okay? Jayden Daniels, you know, if you've been following me since 2019, when we were looking at the 2020 draft class, I fell in love with Jayden Daniels when he beat Justin Herbert on a Friday night, Arizona State and Oregon, and I've been loving him ever since. Been on the Jayden Daniels bandwagon for a very long time. Love this kid. Love what he's doing. The Commanders are what a story right now. I mean, like, I'm telling you right now, the Rams are the better matchup. But even if I was Fangio and the Eagles, I'd be worried. Jayden Daniels is just locked in. Go back and watch that game I always talk about where he outdueled Herbert and he beat Herbert as a freshman. Go back and watch that game. You see similarities to where he's at right now. It's in the man's DNA. When the lights get the brightest, he locks in. And now I want to talk about this. So I say all that to say this. There's not a bigger fan, and there hasn't been a longer fan in this community than me when it comes to Jayden Daniels, okay? All right? I love the kid. Love everything he's about. Love everything he does. And I have since 2019, 2020 when he was at Arizona State. But guys, I see people on X is really where I'm seeing it, okay? On X. Man, the people that are just so... Stop comparing him to Tua. Stop comparing every quarterback that does something. Last year was CJ Stroud, right? Last year was, we need CJ Stroud. CJ Stroud doesn't look as good this year. He's in a little bit of a sophomore slump, so we're no longer using that as the bar. Now the bar is Jayden Daniels, who's having arguably the greatest rookie season of all time. He's the first quarterback to lead his team as a rookie to a conference championship since Mark Sanchez in 2009. You people act like Jayden Daniels are just found on trees. See, what's crazy to me is I also said all I said to say how much I love Jayden Daniels and how long I've been a supporter of him and how big of a supporter I've been on him. None of y'all wanted Jayden Daniels pre-draft. None of y'all were sitting there saying, we need Jayden Daniels. We need to trade the farm up for Jayden Daniels. But now y'all are using hindsight. And now it's, we should have got Jayden Daniels. Like, it's like when I hear Dolphin fans, and then on top of that, you didn't even have a chance to draft Jayden Daniels. Were we picking at number 1 and we passed on Jayden Daniels and he went to number 2? Correct me if I'm wrong, but we weren't. We were picking at 21. We were 19 picks past that. Okay? And the New England Patriots weren't budging off trading back to 5 with the Giants to give up Drake May. You weren't getting Jayden Daniels at number 2. The Commanders weren't moving. It's the same thing with Burrow. Well, guess what, guys? The Bengals, we picked at number 5 in that draft, but the Bengals weren't moving off number 1. They were locked in on Joe Burrow right away. They gave him the playbook right away. We had no chance of getting him. So, listen. Just why can't people just appreciate what players do? Why is it always got to come back to some comparison? Like real talk. I watch what Mahomes does. I wish we had it, but Mahomes is a one-on-one. How many teams are going to have a chance at drafting Mahomes? How many teams are going to have a chance at drafting a Lamar Jackson or a Josh Allen? It's not like all of these guys came in one draft and every single draft, look at this draft. There's no Jayden Daniels in this draft. Cam Ward's the QB1, and he's going to be really good, but he's not Jayden Daniels. Now, Cam Ward does have something similar to Jayden Daniels, and that is, what did he prove at the U and before that in Washington, et cetera, et cetera. When the lights get the brightest, Cam Ward locks in. There ain't no doubt about that. So, and listen, I love Jayden Daniels. I think he's top 5 quarterback. He's my man. Him and Drake May were my man crutches. I think they're going to... I think this whole draft class, when it's all said and done, there's potential this draft class to be just as good and as talented as 2020. Now, which draft class is going to win more? I don't know. I can't tell you. Hey, we all saw Joe Burrow in year 2 in his ride to the Super Bowl. How close has he gotten since? Old Dolphin fans, you saw Marino's ride to the Super Bowl. How close did he get after that 84 Super Bowl? Now, let's be real here too. And this is a big contextual point a lot of people are leaving out when they're talking about Jayden Daniels. Guys, he's in the AFC. He's in the NFC. He's not in the AFC. And now, I still think Jayden Daniels is special. I still think he's elevating players around him. But let's be real here. Right? Like, you're in the NFC. It's pretty weak. It's pretty freaking weak. You know, it's not the gauntlet, the AFC. Like, look at, I'll name you the top 5 best quarterbacks this year because it seems to change every year because guys have down years, guys play out, whatever the case may be is. The top 5 quarterbacks this year were Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen. I would put Jayden Daniels in there. And we're always going to put Patrick Mahomes in there because we know he can just turn it on whenever he wants. And his accolades and what he's already shown us in the past. Mahomes has already earned that cachet. Guys, 4 of those top 5 I just named are in the AFC. Like, the AFC is truly a gauntlet. So, yeah. I don't think Jayden Daniels would let the Commanders down. I think their roster would let them down. Because let's be honest, like, they are, as a roster, they're overachieving. I think, and it's on the back of Jayden Daniels right now. That team believes in, they're at a high confidence level because of Jayden Daniels. Now, I'm worried that the Detroit win might have been their Super Bowl. You know, I hope it wasn't. But if the Eagles play the way they played last week, in the wild card round, the Commanders can beat them with Jayden Daniels. The Rams, the Commanders can beat with Jayden Daniels. So it's very interesting, that NFC now. Very interesting, that NFC now. And it's just what's crazy to me is, like, you know, it's just always, last year it was Stroud. He's in a sophomore slump. No one wants to talk about him this year. You know, now it's Jayden Daniels. Right? And listen, you know, everyone wants to say, oh, woe's me, we're Dolphin fans. And I get it. Like, how long have we not won a playoff game? I totally get it. 110%. But let's be real here. How many teams are wishing they had Jayden Daniels? Every team that doesn't have Joe Burrow, Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, or Josh Allen is probably wishing they had him. Yes, even the Chargers would take Jayden Daniels over Justin Herbert. So, you know, and then when you get to the crux of the situation, like, imagine how teams like the Giants feel, how the Titans feel, how the Browns feel, how the Raiders feel, how the Jags feel with Trevor Lawrence. Say what you want about Tua. He's better than Trevor Lawrence. You know, imagine if you're the Jets with Aaron Rodgers. See, Tua's good enough and you can win with Tua. You know, he can give you, I've said this before, he's a top 8 to 12 quarterback. And he can give you days where he gives you a top 5 performance. Those are all facts. You can win with that. But how good is, and that's with a lot of the teams. Like, look at the Ravens. Why is everyone so afraid of the Ravens this year? Because of how deep that freaking roster is. They added Derrick Henry, for God's sake, and look at what it's done. Rashad Bateman. Derrick Henry's elevated that roster. It's allowed Lamar Jackson to exploit the passing game more because defenses are so worried about Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson's ability to run 2 levels to the run game that Rashad Bateman was feasting. You know, we saw the game Isaiah Likely had earlier in the year. Mark Andrews is always putting up the numbers. You know, look at how that roster's built. Now the Detroit Lions, they had one of the best and most deep rosters in football, but they ended up having 16 major injuries by the time they lost yesterday. So even the deepest of rosters, 16 players on IR and Amik Robertson like broke his arm yesterday. Aiden Hutchinson, et cetera, even the deepest of rosters. I remember when we lost to Kansas City, we had 11 players, I believe it was, on IR. Look at the Kansas City Chiefs. Why did they get so deep? Philadelphia, 14-3. Look like they're probably going to go to the NFC Championship if they handle their business properly today. Look how deep that roster is on both sides of the ball. And you put 2 on the Philadelphia Eagles instead of Jalen Hurts, and they're winning championships in the NFC. Jalen Hurts is not very good. A.J. Brown is clearly not happy. But look at how raw. But even with an insufficient quarterback play, look at how deep that roster is and how it carries them. Minnesota, look how deep that roster was and how it helped carry Sam Darnold. Now, wheels fell off a little bit at the end there, but you get where I'm going with this? Roster construction matters when you get into this stuff. So, and Jayden Daniels, we're seeing a rarity in terms of, now, he did have, I believe the offensive line was ranked 8th best in the NFL this year. And he had, he did get hurt yesterday, but they have one of the guys who, remember, he was one of my big man crushes, was Sam Cosmi. Remember, I loved Sam Cosmi coming out. Loved him from Texas. Absolutely loved him. He was a huge guy, just like Abe Lucas, who's in Seattle, who's balling out too. Guy from Washington, guys I loved, went under the radar and are doing really good. But I think they have the 8th best O-line. But look at the run game they have in there, and look at how they stick to it. You got Brian Robinson and Austin Eckler, legitimate thunder and lightning. And look at what Austin Eckler did for Herbert's career, right? People forget, before Eckler left, about 55% of Herbert's completions came at the line of scrimmage or behind the line of scrimmage because of Austin Eckler. So, and McLaurin was always there. He's just waiting to be elevated now. But look at what Jayden's doing. Jayden's elevating a guy like Diami Brown, right? Zach Ertz has had his career rejuvenated a little bit with Jayden Daniels. Man, Jayden Daniels is special, and he's doing things. But listen, there's 26 to 28 teams that would want Jayden Daniels right now. And this is coming from the biggest Jayden Daniels fan in this community. Pump the brakes on anointing him just yet. Has he played like a top 5 quarterback this year? Yes. If you take the season in a vacuum, yes. He has. But we did this, a lot of people did this with Stroud last year. They wanted to anoint him a top 8 quarterback right away, and he had a sophomore slump. They're real. They happen in music. The sophomore slumps happen in music, right? How many great people have come out with debuts and that sophomore album is a slump? Sophomore slumps happen in baseball, especially batting, right? Look at Julio Rodriguez. Corbin Carroll even, but Corbin Carroll's more of a shoulder injury, but that's a perfect example too. Look at Corbin Carroll. So slumps happen in professional sports. They happen in other industries like music. I think the difference between Jayden Daniels and Stroud is Jayden Daniels in the fourth quarter when the light's on is just a different animal. So that's why I do think he'll consistently be this good. But they got $93 million in cap space. And hey, we might be moving off Mike McDaniel next year, right? Look at what Dan Quinn, given another shot, has done and turned around. Don't tell me I'm wrong when I say if you're moving off Mike McDaniel, Steve Spagnuolo is a fantastic move. Don't tell me I'm wrong. Because if Spags... I read an article where they're talking about Steve Spagnuolo making the Hall of Fame as an assistant head coach. And think, the Titans got who I wanted. I wanted Mike Borgonzi. That's who I wanted to replace Chris Greer. I wanted Borgonzi and him. And Steve Spagnuolo. But, man, you're looking at Dan Quinn. That's a defensive-minded guy getting another shot after it had been a couple years since he was at Dallas. Sorry, at Atlanta, because then he went to Dallas as a defensive coordinator. Spags, and Spags has connections, right? He can pluck from that Kansas City Chiefs franchise. I don't know, man. And, for everyone that does want what the Commanders have, remember, the changes didn't start with Jayden Daniels, people. The changes started with Dan Snyder. If we really want to get into the crux of why the Commanders are where they're at right now, it started long before Jayden Daniels arrived. It started with Dan Snyder being removed as owner. New owner came in, new front office, new head coach, new quarterback, and they started to rebuild the roster. It all started at the top. If you really want to go there and say, I want what the Commanders have, I want what Jayden Daniels have, well, ladies and gentlemen, it started with the removal of Dan Snyder. And what have I said? If Stephen Ross and Garfinkel are going to start to put, because, I know they're going to Madrid, but the word around town is they were really pushing for this international stuff. And this is my opinion. I haven't heard this. This is my opinion. That smells like Garfinkel. That smells like, once again, Garfinkel and Ross worrying about the business more so than the product and the result. They want to, we can be the first team in Spain. Imagine the money we're going to make as that first shot. That's what it feels like to me. And I'm going to say this, if they're going to start doing those kind of things and worrying about playing international games and then actually fixing the product on the field, they're going to worry about the F1 more. I've already said this. I said this to my patrons and my channel members. If you're going to worry about the F1 more than football, and now I'll add this, if you're going to worry about being first in international markets more than the product and fixing the product in the field, sell the team, bro. Serious. Because the last thought on my mind would be playing football in mother effing Madrid, okay? The first thought on my mind was, how the F am I going to fix this situation? And don't even get me started about how they're trying to get involved in soccer and almost ruin this stadium. Can't take a hint. Ravens Bills tonight. Sorry, I will never root for the Bills. There are teams in sports I hate more than anything. The Philadelphia Flyers, the Washington Capitals, the Buffalo Bills. Like, there are just teams in sports, the New York Yankees, that I just hate. And I'm sorry. I cannot root for the Buffalo Bills to beat the Baltimore Ravens. You know what? I'm going to be honest with you. As a football fan, give me a Lamar Jackson, Jayden Daniels Super Bowl. I'm down. Give me a Jayden Daniels, Lamar Jackson Super Bowl. I'm down for that. Now, with the Chiefs winning yesterday, I don't know, man. I still look, it wasn't pretty at times. Yeah, they pulled away at the end there. But they're going to have to score more than 30 points, it feels like, against the Baltimore Ravens. I'm sorry. Derrick Henry was literally the perfect final piece for that roster in Baltimore. They no longer have to rely on a committee of Gus Edwards and Justice Hill and blah, 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 blah to get over 100 yards. Derrick Henry could pop up for 155 just on any given day. So, but yeah, that Chiefs game, yeah. Shout out to the TikTok ban lasting for like 7 minutes. Can't kill my wife's addiction. She loves that stuff. So, TikTok ban lasted 7 minutes, and here we are. So let's get into this. It seems to be a hot topic. What should the Miami Dolphins do at backup quarterback? So I said, let's give options. Let's just not talk about players. Let's talk about options. What are some options for the Miami Dolphins here? Because, yeah, players are involved in options. But what could we really do here? Now, do me the favor. I need you to do me this right now. Smash that like button, okay? There's about 300 of you in the room right now. I got 76 likes. I need 24 likes to get to 100. Smash that like button. Get me to 100 likes right now. And let's get into this. I said, you know what? Let's forget just sitting here listing names. Like, obviously, there's going to be names listed here. But let's give options. Because, now, one thing I've said continuously is I want to double dip. I want to double dip. I want a quarterback off free agency, off the market, and I want a quarterback in the draft. I want to double dip. Chris Grier said they will turn over every stone, including the draft. I want to double dip. When we talk about the Kyle McCords, when we talk about the Curtis Rourkes, if we talk about taking a flyer on a Dylan Gabriel, I'm more comfortable with those guys, obviously ranging anywhere from early to late day 3. All right? So we're going to get into all of that. And then there's certain guys I'm okay with higher than day 3. So let's get into all this. Here are how I view the best options for the Miami Dolphins when it comes to their 2025 quarterback contingency plan. All right? Number 1, Kirk Cousins as and I'm talking strictly quarterback 2. Okay? I want to double dip. So when I'm talking about quarterback 2, if I want quarterback 2 to be a vet, then quarterback 3 is going to be a rookie. Put it that way, okay? Number 1, Kirk Cousins. Now, Kirk Cousins is expected to be cut before his March 17th roster bonus is due. All right? This is from Adam Schefter on December 21st, 2024. Kirk Cousins' divorce from the Falcons is expected to be finalized before his $10 million roster bonus is due March 17th, with executives across the NFL fully expecting Atlanta to release him by then. The split between Cousins and the Falcons is inevitable at this point, according to multiple sources. So, if you're talking about a quarterback 2, this guy, we saw what he did in Washington with Shanahan, with McDaniel, with McVay on that staff. If you are talking about a veteran number 2 quarterback, is there going to be a better option on the market? And I expect, and there's 2 names that are not on here, I expect Sam Darnold to get 30 plus million, so he is not an option. And the word on the street, ladies and gentlemen, is that Justin Fields is going to re-sign in Pittsburgh, and they are going to move off of Russell Wilson. That is the word on the street. That Justin Fields is going to remain in Pittsburgh, and they are going to move off Russell Wilson. So Russell Wilson and Sam Darnold are not in this equation for me. So Kirk Cousins, listen, I get it. He was not good this year. You ain't got to tell me nothing when it comes to that. All right? The arm, it's just, he was coming off a major injury when you look at it, and you look at his age, right? I don't know, like coming off of, it's just that was just a tough injury. I don't know if he's ever fully got back to what he was. Right? Has he been the same since that torn Achilles? Right? He suffered it in October 29, 2023. Remember, he is not 30 years old. He's 36. So and Aaron Rodgers didn't look the same. I think another year, another offseason, he'll be more back to his normal self. So I'm not saying Kirk Cousins ever going to be explosive, but I think that's why you saw the dip in production. So for me, Kirk Cousins, he'll be 2 years removed from the torn Achilles this October. When you look at the best veteran, look what he did with Washington. There's familiarity with McDaniel. Kirk Cousins, who's expected to be cut, to me is number one. Number two, go to Seattle. Find out if Sam Howell or Geno Smith is available. Now, let's talk about Geno Smith because people are going to look at his contract and go, "Reason you're crazy." Well, here you go. Geno Smith has a $16 million roster bonus due on March 20th. So you don't trade for him until after March 20th. Seattle would presumably have to pay that before a team will trade him. So what his cost is after they pay that $16 million bonus? $14.8 million. Geno Smith, $14.8 million. He's won at the NFL level. He's been a starter the last 2 years. Is he great? No, but we're talking about QB2 options because we're locked in on Tua's contract. And we don't have a pick to get Cam Ward. I don't want Jimmy G. I know people are going to say, "Hey, where's Jimmy G?" Reason. Jimmy G loves the ladies too much. The Miami life, from the Rippers to the PORN industry, all that kind of stuff. I don't want Jimmy G anywhere near South Florida. I'm sorry. He's not on this list, for all of you wondering. And I'm not a fan of the guy anyways. So he's not on this. So number two is Sam Howell. He's only going to cost you $1.1 million in 2025. So Sam Howell, Geno Smith, both have won games as starter at the NFL level. I think when you look next to Kirk Cousins, you're talking about on the options here. When we're not talking about rookies, when we're talking about veteran options, those are two of the more talented ones that could be available. So Sam Howell, Geno Smith, Kirk Cousins, those would be ideal if you're going for a backup. Number 4, Mac Jones. Sorry, and number 3, Andy Dalton. Let's get into Andy here. Now, and for all of you wondering about Geno Smith, and I know Kirk Cousins, everyone's mad about Kirk Cousins because this year, when you look at Kirk, he played 14 games, 18 touchdowns, 16 interceptions. But last year he played with Minnesota before the Achilles pop. 8 games, he had 2,300 yards, 18 touchdowns, and 5 picks. The year before that, 29 touchdowns and 14 picks. The year before that, 33-7. Year before that, 35-13. Year before that, 26-6. Year before that, 30-10. Guy could step in. The guy could step in if you needed him to. Now, Geno Smith, he earned a re-up from the Seattle Seahawks because of his play a few years ago. And, when he threw for 30 touchdowns and 11 interceptions, 2023, he threw for 20 touchdowns and 9 interceptions, and he threw for 3,600 yards. This year, he threw for 4,300 yards, 21 touchdowns, and 15 interceptions. Plus he's got a little bit of a running threat. Ran for almost 300 yards this year. Ran for almost 400 yards in 2022. Not bad. Now, Andy Dalton. See, okay. Kirk Cousins, Sam Howell, and Geno Smith. If, let's say, Tua was out for 4 games, those guys you could go 3-1 with. Like, in that stretch where we were out Tua, those guys would have probably beat the Colts. Probably would have beat the Titans. Andy Dalton's more of like now we're getting more into we're going from the potential to go 3-1 Well, 4 games are out, or 4-2 in 6 games, 2 is out, to like 500 guys maybe. So Andy Dalton, I got him number 3 here. Been around, 37 years old. I mean, he's been around the block, obviously. This year, 6 starts, 989 yards, 7 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. 3 starts last year for Carolina, 2 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. Now when it comes to winning, though, he was 1-5 with Carolina this year. Last year he was 0-3. So he's not exactly winning. Mac Jones. Now the reason why Mac Jones is on this list is because he does a lot of the things. He's a poor man's version of what Tua does in terms of the timing, anticipation, and accuracy, especially in Jacksonville, extra poor man's version. Now, he only won 2 games this year, right? He went 2-7. Threw 8 touchdowns, 8 interceptions. He sacked 14 times. It was rough at times. But he could step in and he could be a poor man's version of Tua. I got another video planned this week regarding the quarterback position, and he kind of fits the mold of what I'm going to be talking about. So, Mac Jones is an option. Number 5, Russell Wilson. And you're going to say, reason. Why is Russell Wilson not higher than Mac Jones and Andy Dalton? And I've got reasoning why. So, this year, he was decent, right? 2,482 yards, 16 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. In the regular season, right? You look at his record. He went 6-5, did Russell Wilson. All right? If you look at his overall record, he went 6-6. You look at last year and what he did with Denver. 26 touchdowns, 8 interceptions, 3,000 yards. 2022, 3,500 yards, 16 touchdowns, 11 interceptions. The issue with Russell Wilson is he doesn't play in structure. And he's not the athlete he once was. So, Dolphins country, let's swim. The problem with Russell Wilson, for me, is he doesn't play in structure. Now, what has him higher than a rookie quarterback for me is look at the experience he has. The guy's won the Super Bowl. I think he's a guy where if Tua's out for 6 games, he could get you 3-3. If Tua's out for 4 games, he could get you 2-2. I think Mac Jones, Andy Dalton could do those things for you, to like a short stretch. I think Sam Howell, Geno Smith, and Kirk Cousins, I think they could get you 4-2 in the, you know what I mean? In a 6-game stretch, or 3-1 in a 4-game stretch. I think that's realistic too. There's tiers to this. You know what I mean? Number 6 for me is a rookie quarterback. Now, everyone knows how I feel. Jaxson Dart has been my guy. I would love to get him in the 2nd round. I've been saying for weeks, I think he's going to sneak into the 1st. I've been saying for months, this team, and specifically Mike McDaniel, will love Quinn Ewers well before Brett Collerman. And shout out to Kyle Krabs and them had their exchange on it like last week. I was talking about how Quinn Ewers is going to be loved by Mike McDaniel when we were like 2-4, 2-6. Okay? So there's an option. We're not going to be bad enough for Shedeur or Cam. And I don't want to trade up for Shedeur. Okay? Shedeur, yes, he can make the timing, anticipation, and accurate throws. But the issue with Shedeur is he holds the ball far too long. And in Miami, he'd get killed holding the ball as long as he does. And he's not a high-end athlete. He's a good athlete. He's not a great or elite athlete. Shedeur holds it way too long. Now, they're also at 6 because there's a crapshoot. You don't know what you're going to get. Jaxson Dart could come in, go 4-0, and take over the job. Jaxson Dart could come in, go 1-3, and get relegated back to the bench for further development. Same goes for anyone else you want to name. Now, the issue for me is the guys that I like, when we get into Shedeur Sanders, Cam Ward, Jaxson Dart, Jalen Milroe, Quinn Ewers, those are day 1, day 2 guys. I think Cam Ward, Shedeur, and Jaxson Dart are day 1 guys. I think Jalen Milroe is a day 2 guy. And, I think he's a round 2 guy. And I would take I wouldn't want Quinn Ewers before the 3rd, to be honest with you. And then Dylan Gabriel is a guy I would want in the 4th or 5th if you're going to take a crapshoot on him. But then Kyle McCord and Chris Rourke, those are guys I'd be targeting in the 5th-ish. Will Rogers is a guy I'd target in the 5th-ish. If you like Riley Leonard, Will Howard, or Donovan Smith, I wouldn't target them, specifically Donovan Smith, till after the 5th. I'm not a huge Will Howard or Riley Leonard guy. I like Will Rogers better than both those guys. But, Curtis Rourke, Kyle McCord, those are guys I'd be targeting in the 5th. Dylan Gabriel, 4th or 5th. Quinn Ewers, 3rd. Jaxson Dart, I want in the 2nd, but he's going to be in the 1st. Milroe is going to probably be in a 2nd-round pick, maybe back end of the 1st. So, I kind of feel like once you get outside Cam, Shedeur, and Jaxson Dart, Quinn Ewers and Jalen Milroe, if Dylan Gabriel, Kyle McCord, or Curtis Rourke have to be your QB2 in year 1, how comfortable do you feel? At least with Jaxson Dart, yeah, it's a rookie, but he's dynamic. So, we'll see. We'll see, but when it comes to the rookie quarterback, that's how I see it. Number 7 is kind of a sleeper, and he kind of makes sense, is Marcus Mariota. Now, Marcus Mariota went 3-0 with the Commanders this year, right? 4 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, threw for 364 yards on 34 completions. Marcus Mariota makes sense, right? And he was apparently he was Tua's idol when Tua was coming up. When you look at Marcus Mariota, when he had to start 13 games for Atlanta in 2022, he was good in that year too, right? He was now they didn't win a lot. He won when you break it all down, he only won 5 games compared to 8 losses. But he threw for 2,200 yards, 15 touchdowns, and 9 interceptions. Ran for 4 touchdowns and 438 yards as well. So Marcus Mariota, the Samoan tie, he makes sense. Tyler Huntley, he knows the system. I guess he makes sense. Bring him back. Why not? I'm not a fan of Brady Cook, Josh Miller. So Tyler Huntley, bring him back. But we kind of saw in that last game when you weren't facing DTR, the worst starting quarterback in the NFL, it didn't look so hot. Joe Flacco, now we're getting into the old, decrepit, what do you have left in the tank options? The guy's 40 years old, right? He just turned 40. And this year, what did he really do? Right? He went 3-5 with the Colts. 12 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. I guess. And then Jameis Winston. Knock yourself out with Jameis Winston. But again, a guy who couldn't win this year with a good Cleveland Browns defense, might I add. But he only won 3 games. Right? He went 3-9 this year. 13 touchdowns, 12 interceptions, 2,100 yards. Yeah, I get it. He's fun and happy and good in the locker room, but that didn't equate to Jack Bo Diddley. So those are my top 10 options. Now I'm going to field a few questions because I knew they would come. What do I think about Cooper Rush? Meh. Not like, see, at the bottom of my list there, I think he falls into that category with, Flacco. Those are guys who, you could go 3-1, 2-2. I think now you're getting into the 1-3 guys in a 4-game stretch, or the 2-4 guys in a 6-game stretch, right? Cooper Rush this year went what? 5-7, 12 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, 1,800 yards. Very similar to Flacco, right? I think like when you look at Kirk Cousins, Sam Howell, Geno Smith, I think those are guys you can go 3-1 or 4-2 over a 4 or 6 game stretch with. Andy Dalton, Mac Jones, Russell Wilson, you can go 2-2 or 3-3 with. Rookie quarterback, it's a crapshoot. You can go 3-1, you go 2-2, you could go 1-3, whatever, right? Marcus Mariota, I do think Marcus Mariota belongs in the you could go either 1-2 or 2-2, but he's the high end level of that. And then Tyler Huntley, Joe Flacco, and Jameis Winston are also, I think they're more 1-3, 2-2 guys over a 4-game stretch, or 2-4, 3-3 game guys over a 6-game stretch. Take my list in that context. And I do think, Mariota is in a weird place like the rookie quarterback where he could either give you 2-2 or he could give you 3-1. Or he could give you 1-3. So that's kind of how I see it. How about Tua's brother? Isn't he in the CFL right now? I'm pretty sure he's playing for the Hamilton Tiger Cats. I'm pretty sure. I'm not a huge fan. I don't want Trey Lance. I don't want Zach Wilson. Those are projects. Those are QB3 projects. And I think Will Levis is a QB3 project. I think Marcus Mariota could win more games right now with you. I think Sam Howell, Geno Smith, Kirk Cousins, Andy Dalton, Mac Jones, and Russell Wilson could probably win more games with you. Will Levis, Trey Lance, Zach Wilson, they need their mechanics stripped down and rebuilt a little bit, and they need their confidence rebuilt. That's the main thing. That's why I view them as projects. Those guys need their confidence rebuilt at the position. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's a project. Those are investments. I would prefer that as a QB3. Like, if you want to trade for Will Levis and say, hey, that's our QB3 and we're going to go get a veteran number 2 option, okay. I would prefer to draft a quarterback at QB3 and develop him and eventually to move up the chain. Like, I'm telling you, if I drafted Jaxson Dart, let's say they drafted Jaxson Dart at 13. Let's just say, I would still want them to have signed an Andy Dalton, a Mac Jones, a Russell Wilson, or a Kirk Cousins, or landed a Geno Smith or Sam Howell. Geno Smith, they're going to be desperate to move him. You're going to tell them, hey, you got to pay that $16 million bonus. I only want that $14.8 million cap hit. Go move him. I'll give you a 6 or a 7. Sam Howell, what are you going to give, a 5th? I'd give a 5th for Sam Howell. And then, do I like Sam Howell better than Curtis Rourke or Kyle McCord? Sam Howell's won games right now. So, yeah, I do. So, anyways, that's how I feel. That's where I'm at with the whole quarterback situation. All right? That's just where I'm at with everything. Draft a quarterback, double dip, sign a vet, and draft a quarterback. That's where I'm at. Reason, how good can Dart be? Dart has a huge ceiling. The guy ran for 600 yards a couple of years ago. He ran for almost 500 yards this year? Like, dude, Jaxson Dart has a very high ceiling as a dual threat. He's going to be a good... think about this. This is why I want him so much. Look at what Tua came from. Right, yeah, he ran for 495 yards, 3 touchdowns, and threw for 4,279 yards, 29 touchdowns this year. RPO, quick processing. What do you think Jaxson Dart comes from in Ole Miss? RPO, read option, coached up from Lane Kiffin, NFL coaching. But he's going to add a dual threat. He's going to add the ability to run and gain yards to that. What Lane Kiffin is turning Dart into without Dart even knowing is a quick processor. With the RPOs and the read options, you got to make a pre-snap decision. You got to read the linebackers, read the safeties, read the defense, and what they're showing you pre-snap, and you got to make a decision. I'm telling you, look at his background. From the RPO and the read option stuff, it's very similar to Tagovailoa. That's why when you wanted, and we'll talk about this later this week when I get into my episode, because I'll be talking about the quarterback position later this week. When you look at how this offense is currently designed, that's what you want to look for. Those are green flags. And give me Tua for 1 year and let me develop Jaxson Dart in this offense. Get used to the terminology. Get used to the route concepts. And I'm telling you, this is what people seem to be missing with the Dolphins. I'm not saying they will, but this is a power play for Chris Grier and Mike McDaniel if they want to take a guy like Jaxson Dart at 13. Think about this. I've talked about this already. I'll talk about it again. Imagine if they turn around and they sit there and they draft Jaxson Dart. Dart has this huge, massive ceiling. You see a little bit of Dart in this season, and he flashes. All they got to do, or Stephen Ross, who's going to come down. This could be a way for Chris Grier and Mike McDaniel to try and bide more time. They could sit there and say, oh, we're drafting Mike's guy now. This is who, Tua, yeah, he made it work, but this is, now give us a chance, we're drafting our guy. Now, I'm not saying it'll work, but for two guys that are desperate, that is a path. Think about it. Reason, what's the chance Miami trades down a few spots and stacks picks, maybe 13 to 18-ish or early 20s and still gets a QB here, OG or OT? Listen, if you're going to trade back that far, you're not getting Will Campbell, Kelvin Banks, Josh Carnley, my third guy, my third tackle, he's probably gone. Now, trade back to 18-ish, I think you got a legit shot at Tyler Booker still. Legit shot at Tyler Booker. Alabama guard, third best lineman in this draft, I think, behind Campbell and Banks. So, that's a... Now, when you get to the early 20s, you got to see how the board falls with those kind of questions. But I do think if you trade back to 18, you still have a chance at like a Tyler Booker. Now Connerly and Campbell and Banks might be gone by then. So, got to be careful there. Got to be careful with trade backs. So, and you just got to watch how the board's falling. Now, I want Dart in the second. I don't want Dart at 13. Now, if you took Will Campbell or Kevin Banks at 13 and you decided to trade up into the late 20s or the mid 20s because Dart was still around, and knock yourself out. But a perfect draft for me would be like Banks or Campbell drop to us at 13. Then you turn around in that second round and you get either Dart, or who won't be there, or Jonas Savaiinaea is another guy that I want. Or maybe you take a defensive tackle like, I don't know, maybe they're like Walter Nolan if he's still around, or I like Deion Walker if he's still around. You know, or maybe Nick Manowari is still around, a safety. You know, so there's options and there's pass. Guys, smash that like button, subscribe if you're new. Please smash that like button. Over 120 likes already. Let's get that to 150 before we get out of here. Enjoy the divisional round. I will be back on Monday for all of y'all. Appreciate each and every one of you. Smash that like button. Subscribe if you're new. And I will see y'all in the next one. Until then, you already know what time it is. Fins up all day, every day. Enjoy football, baby.